back to the sacred space. My name is Calu and I'm also known as the Scribe Priestess. And in this channel, I make videos about spiritual practices, spiritual journeys, anything that has to do with our spiritual development here on Earth. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about a spiritual practice called contact with the plants. And I am very excited to start this journey because we have already talked a little bit about the contact with the more than human world on the last video, and this is like a little sequel about it. So grab yourself something to drink and let's start today's video. As always, guys, there is going to be an extended version of this video on my webpage. And in this extended version, I am going to be talking about rituals with master plants, such as ayahuasca, for example. And I'm going to extend a little bit more my point of view that I have about these practices. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the spiritual side about the practices with master plants, and I'm going to be given a deeper opinion about why we actually don't need them anymore as we used them before, because they are still sacred plants, but I have my own opinion about it. So if you're curious enough to know about this subject a little bit more, I'm going to leave my link on for my webpage down below, and you can go and check it out. You have to become a member to be part of our sacred community of the Scribe Priestess. So without further ado, let's get started. Contact with plants, you guys. I love everything that has to do with plants. Growing up, I had the blessing that I had a farm. And on that farm, we didn't have a lot of animals, so to speak, as a normal, regular farm. But my dad loved and loves a lot to be growing plants. And he had this beautiful hobby that wherever he was traveling into, he would bring something from that country and try to replicate it in our farm. So we had a lot of different plants from all over the world, and I don't know, it was like the farm was a bit of a labyrinth into my dad's feelings, emotions, and inner world, because you could see there all over the places my father was, and all over the places that he took with him a beautiful part of the land, of the wisdom of that country. I grew up hearing a lot about flowers. I grew up living with flowers all of the time. Flowers, plants, everything were my friends since I was a tiny little girl. And I have said to my mom several times that the beautiful memories that I have from my childhood was just playing outside in nature. But I remember that I could speak to the flowers, for example, or that I would pick certain things and make cakes with them. Or putting, already making these ritual things. It was very interesting now that I can think about how I was living as a child, the contact with nature. And it had to do with the beauty of flowers and the beauty of the insects that live there and everything that surrounds this beautiful, wild nature. My father, he used to go all around and he knew every scientific name of every single flower. So it was really going into a path of knowledge, scientific knowledge about beauty. It was very interesting, and until this day, we make phone calls, and on video he goes and shows me everything that is going on the farm, and it's just a very beautiful part that I have from my life. One of the things that the contact with plants has to give us, because there are a bunch of things that I'm going to talk about in this video, but the first thing that I want to be saying is that when we connect us to nature and the beauty of the flowers and the plant world, we are connecting ourselves to our own beauty, so to the sense of what beauty actually is. And one thing so amazingly that Sheldrake pinpoints on his book, Science and Spiritual Practices, animals and insects can actually recognize beauty, that they actually can recognize a specific flower has a specific color, for example. I was reading not so long ago that forget-me-nots, the little tiny beautiful blue forget-me-nots, several of them have a dot. If you go very inside of the forget-me-nots, one of them, they will have a yellow circle on the inside of them, and other ones are just going to be white on the inside. And the yellow ones are yellow because they're telling the insect that there is pollen inside, so they can come and get this pollination happening. How crazy is that? How amazing. It's just, everything is just so good interconnected. And when you see how plants communicate with each other, how plants communicate with us, it's just amazing. And another thing that we learned from plants is that they have very often a female and a male part. So this female energy and this masculine energy, that they enable them to reproduce themselves. So that's amazing that we can see that replica on the plant world. Come on, you guys. I found that so amazing that you can go just outside, and from just watching and observing flowers, you can learn so much. Did you know that there are clusters of petals? For example, there can be flowers that have 3 petals, or clusters of 3 petals. So for example, 3, 3, 3, 3. There are others who have 4. So and either they have 4 petals or clusters of 4 petals. So they go 4, 4, 4 like this. There are a lot of different things to be experiencing and be learning from the plant world. Regarding this beauty subject, it has been even transported into religion. There are a lot of symbols in religion that talk about flowers and translate itself on the beauty about life, on the creative energy, very often intertwined with the feminine energy, with the energy of creation, of this creativity we all possess inside of us. So for example, the rose is a beautiful symbol in a lot of cultures for not only the femininity that we all have inside of us, but very focused on the womb. This petal of the rose that are opening, and you have this beautiful rose, this beautiful red rose that inspires us to think about beauty. Beauty is a concept which is very mystical. It has a lot of wisdom inside of it, because you can see the primordial beauty in a flower. You can see the very sacredness of beauty inside of a flower, of a wild flower. There is this mysticism behind the wildflowers that just grow out of the blue in a very spontaneous because it's not that spontaneous, but in this spontaneous cycle that happens very organically in Mother Nature. So it has this mystical, magical energy in herself, the beauty of wildflowers. Because let me be very focused right now. We are talking about here with the beauty of plants and flowers, of this wild beauty. So the beauty that's when you are going inside of the mountains and suddenly you see this field of wildflowers. But I'm not referring here to a garden that is very touched by man. And there is nothing wrong about that, because gardens are also a form that we have incorporated as civilizations and humanities to keep that contact with nature. And it's actually a very known practice all over the world that people, more and more people, are starting to have their own gardens, are starting to plant more things, are starting to grow their own food, to be planting some flowers for the bees, the insects. So it is amazing, and I really applaud that. And I make part of those people who want to live in a world where we are starting to grow our food, to get into contact with earth, and that we are being a part of this regeneration of Mother Nature. But there is a very different feeling when you go into a garden that's been touched by humans, as whereas you go to a forest that it's being untouched, that it's just growing in this beautiful mega organism that is all connected with each other, and that is just pure magic happening there. You are just presenting and seeing with your own eyes, bare eyes, the magic that Mother Nature has, because all of these beings, trees, flowers, the herbs all around are interconnected. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm not going to talk about that here in this video, because that's a very beautiful subject and it's a very specific and scientific one, and I would need to do a lot of research to actually make a proper video about it. But that inside of Mother Nature, we have these roots, we have also mushrooms that all connect to each other and are sending signals through all the time. And for example, if a tree that is very far away is needing something because he's sick, or I don't know, there is something that is happening with the tree, those signals are going to be fed in this connecting net all over the forest. And there is this community that is happening where they send messages to that tree and to the other ones to be helping the tree, or the being that is being in that moment triggered, or that needs help at the moment. So imagine, though, so are forests. They live in communities just like us. A big, gigantic, amazing, huge communities. We can actually learn a lot about nature, and there are a lot of books. Really, you can go crazy on the amount of literature you can find regarding this subject, regarding how trees communicate with one another, how everything is interconnected by this mycelium, all the nets from the mushrooms, you know. I will put here the correct translation about what I'm saying, because it's not mycelium. I don't know, I'm thinking about another word. But yes, we can get a lot of wisdom from very ancient beings that have been here, I don't know how many years already, because there are trees that have seen civilizations gone by that have been hundreds and hundreds of years here. So they have a lot of wisdom about not only the land they surround themselves with, but also the passing of the ages. And that's absolutely amazing to have that knowledge that plants also carry a lot of wisdom inside of them. Plus, I have to tell you guys, but plants are medicine, and I'm going to be talking here about two types of medicine. I'm going to be talking about the medicine that we can find, for example, in eating spinach, and the medicine of the power plants such as ayahuasca. We're going to go first on this one with the spinach. So our bodies, you know, I made this series about our physical bodies. If you haven't checked that out, I'm sending you guys to check that video so you can know what our physical body actually needs. But we have a constant need of certain minerals, vitamins, and we can actually get all that from nature and from plants. So for example, if you are in need of magnesium, you can eat spinach, or you can eat a specific plant that is going to give you that magnesium. A lot of plants that grow in the wild have a lot of vitamin C, for example. Do you know the needle? I love needles. Here where I live is called Brennensel, and oh my god, I just love them because they are everywhere. There are fields. I mean, the forest is filled with them, with needles. And yes, they sting. If you don't know how to pick them, they sting. But the properties that the needles have inside of them, my god, it's like a full boost of vitamin C and a lot of other nutrients. They are absolutely holy. And I just, you know, I think about it so often. If we only knew how much abundance we are surrounded by. When you have the blessing to live very near a forest or very near, the land, not in a city, you will start to feel how abundant we are as humans. That actually, if you go outside and explore and get this contact with nature, you're going to see that there is a lot of food there. There is a lot of nutrients that we need as humans there for us to discover. Foraging, I believe, is going to get a peak in the next years. There will be more people going to forage, which I find amazing. And if you are a forager like me, I always try to be very mindful about what I take, where I take it. I always give thanks and I ask permission if I can do it. And I try to always leave enough. I don't take more than I actually need. I leave enough for other people to enjoy about it, but also for the forest to stay with the ecosystem that it already has inside. So I don't just pick randomly and a lot. So I'm very conscious on the foraging that I do, and I always try to be very, very mindful of what I'm doing with it. And I invite you to do just the same, to be very respectful and very grateful to this amazing abundance that we can just have from Mother Earth. When I say that plants are medicine, is because of that. People say that when you're having sleep problems, you can go and take some lavender tea. It helps, yes. When you are having stomach problems, you can take a little bit of chamomile. Yes, it helps. And all of these ancient traditions has been coming from civilizations through civilizations through civilizations. And those are the traditions that, please, if we can just keep them, they have immense wisdom inside of them. It's how our grandmas used to cure ourselves. It's how we actually also cure our own bodies. We actually can cure ourselves with the contact with Mother Nature, with actually going outside and picking things that are going to be beneficial for our health. It opens up the door to homeopathy and alternative ways of treating diseases. But I'm talking more about a preventive state. If you incorporate these habits of eating enough vitamins, of eating enough greens, of eating enough plants, of incorporating plants to your diet, you are giving yourself life. You are giving yourself life from Mother Earth. So if you are able to do that, you are going to be consuming medicine for yourself. And as all medicine, it should be consumed as medicine. Just as any medicine, you should be treating plants the same way. That means that if you already cured what you have, for example, you were taking chamomile tea for your tummy ache, when you don't have more tummy ache, just stop taking the chamomile tea. Because if you continue to just take it and take it and take it, you will get contraindications with the chamomile tea. And that happens with everything. So your own body is going to be also telling you, hey, stop, I had enough. Listen to yourself and try to be very mindful of how you consume plants. Plants in general are medicine for us, are actually a part of our systems, of how we can be supporting our metabolism, our immune system, and all of the vitamins that we need as human beings. And on the other side of the equation, yes, there are some plants that can be also masters of awakening. My point of view is that we don't need this medicine anymore. We don't need to be consuming these power plants in order for us to achieve awakening. We don't need it anymore because we can do that with our own selves, with practices and disciplines, and actually by attuning yourself to a lifestyle that will enable at its own time the process of initiation, the process of awakening. How this whole thing started was because there were a lot of civilizations, and this comes from an era much older than anything that we have known here. That started in the Lemuria times. Lemuria, I don't know if anybody here will understand what I'm talking about, but we will go to the Lemuria ages. So in Lemuria, there were a lot of practices around plants, because it was a very feminine. It was very connected to Mother Nature. It was an era where everything was just very feminine. It was a lot of feminine energy there. So we were very connected and one together with the plants. But that was another era, and the wisdom that was being thought on that era was very different from today, because on that times we could actually see more than we actually do right now. We could see the properties of the plants and how they were going to be affecting us inside, and we could see our auras, and we can see a lot of other things that we don't actually do, everybody, right now in this era that we were living in. So in that time, you were able to see the master wisdom that the plant had to give you. So that's how a lot of power plants were discovered. So if you follow the thread, this is a very ancient practice. Those are very ancient practices that have been carried through the development of our planet Gaia, Mother Earth, through ages and ages and ages. But the initiation with the plants masters was very different in that era as what we are used to see here in this time. And in order for you to have attained such a consciousness in an awakened state, to be able to go and ask for the wisdom of the plant, you had to do a lot of things, you guys. I mean, it was really a hero's journey. It was a journey that you had to take as a human to actually go to the master, to the spirit of the plant, and be awakened, conscious, to actually be receiving this wisdom. Not like now, that maybe you go on a weekend or a Saturday and you do an ayahuasca trip, and then you're left there with all of these things that you were experiencing, and nobody's giving you any guidance, nobody's telling you anything, and you went in this freeway of consciousness that we don't even know if that was consciousness. You don't even know. I am being very serious about this, you guys, because we are living in an era where a lot of things are going to go sideways, where the false truth is going to be out there just playing as the truth itself. We need to use our discernment. We need to be very critical. And those practices, they are sacred. Actually, the best thing that we could do is just leave the plants alone to recuperate themselves. Because right now, I mean, especially ayahuasca, she's such a powerful plant, and she's being misused in so many ways. So the best thing that you could do is just leave her alone, just that she can recuperate it herself. And I don't know, maybe in 200 years from now, maybe we can use them again. I have no idea. What I am saying right now is that in this era, what we are commended to do in our spiritual journey and spiritual development has nothing to do with taking something inside of your body and changing your consciousness. It's not working that way anymore. You have the power inside of you to change your level of consciousness, to awaken yourself without anything, without anything from outside. And it's gonna take time, and it's gonna be, yes, a journey to it, but you have the power inside of you to create those trips that you can actually see with ayahuasca or other plants. I'm just talking about ayahuasca because ayahuasca has been, every time that I say that, I get such a heartache. She's been misused so much in the last years maybe 5, 7, 8 years where all these ayahuasca trips started to happen. And there is a lot of abuse in those settings that it's really, it hurts. It hurts. I am sure, you guys, I am telling you as like 100%, the kids that are being born right now in these generations that are going to be coming now on earth, poof, they have already a lot of abilities that are not going to need ayahuasca trips to be coming out of them. They're going to need meditation. They're going to need a very focused meditation to be helping them to channel all of this power, psychic power that these kids have. So if you believe that your purpose here on earth is to experience psychedelics, to open your consciousness, you can go and do that. But I am telling you, that's not the path. The path is an inner one, and it's an inner journey, and it takes time, and it takes discipline, but it's very worthwhile. And if you are eager enough to take a journey as that one, put that energy into trying to make meditation part of your life. Go inwards, do the work, heal yourself, go inside of you without anything changing your conscious state. Go in there, face your fears, fully conscious. Because when you do that, when you are brave enough to just go and confront that without the need of anything that is going to change your consciousness, you have started your journey. You are being the hero, and you can do it. You don't need any psychedelics to experience God. You need to go inside to connect again to the source. So yes, those practices were from these civilizations. They were not even given to all of the people. You had to do a lot of, I mean, you were not looking for that, because in that era from Lemuria, we were very connected to God, more than we are right now. And it's not that we're not connected right now, because we are, but on that era and on that time, everything was still very mixed with the realms, with the higher realms. I'm going to talk about Lemuria. It's not the case anymore. I actually find the only instance where I find the use of these power plants interesting is when they are chronic diseases or incurable ones that people have taken this as a life journey. This soul has taken that as a life journey here on earth. And that one I find very interesting. The combination from that, from these incurable diseases or very rare diseases, and the use of these plants. But we don't need them anymore, you guys. Those are sacred plants. They should be given their altars back. So yes, I am not going against anybody who's doing that. I am just expressing my point of view and what I live by. And I have never done any ayahuasca. I have never done any power plant. I never felt attracted to it. And that's why I know that we don't need them to actually experience consciousness and awakeness, and to actually experience a spiritual development journey. The last thing that I want to say about plants, because this was a very long video, because I feel very connected with the plant work. I really liked working with plants and herbs to incorporate to our ways of living, ways of eating. They are very, very healthy. They give us, I want to end the video with this. My theory or how I like to live my life is that I am very aware of plants that are growing in my surroundings, and I take as a I take as a given that for the season that we are living in, it can be winter, spring, summer, autumn, those plants that are growing outside are going to have the things that your body needs to go through the seasons. Because we are attuned to the cycles of Mother Nature and Mother Nature to us too. So if you attune yourself to her, you're also getting inside of you the things that you're going to need to be going in flow with the cycles of Mother Nature. So it is a very beautiful thing to be in contact with nature. If you want to know more about this, the plant nature and all of the god and goddesses of the mythology, because mythology has a lot of secrets. Mythology is a very poetic way to talk about archetypes. So if you want to know about the archetypes that are influencing our journey here on earth, you can go and study mythology. And the gods and goddesses in mythology and all of these ancient traditions have a lot of wisdom inside of them. The interconnectedness about the spiritual mythology of the gods and goddesses and the plants. Do you know also that in astrology, I mean, all our astrological placements are connected with plants. The planets have plants also that we can see here in nature. It's just amazing. I love plants and I love nature. I love to be here on earth. I love Pachamama. I love Mother Earth. Okay, I think I have said a lot. So I will continue this on my extended version. I was so happy to be introducing you guys to the contact with the plants. There is more. I mean, there is more. I just spoke about the very top subjects on this matter, but there is a lot of symbology in plants too that you can find in religions. As I said, the rose, for example. In a lot of religions, we have the tree of life, and that is something that I really adore. In Kabbalah, you can see that. In the Celtic tradition, you can also see that there is the symbolism of the tree and how we as humans can also seen as trees. So our energetical fields are actually connected as the trees here on earth. So there is a lot of wisdom inside of putting ourselves in parallel to these amazing beings, which are the trees. So I find that so amazing that in so many different cultures, the tree is taken as a symbol of us humans and of how the energy works. One last thing that I'm gonna say is we are going in that direction to reconnect with Mother Earth, and I am very happy to be part of this and very grateful to be experiencing this lifetime. So yes, I hope you like this video. I hope that you find it entertaining, or that you were finding some things you had never heard about before, or maybe you're ready. Thank you so much for having watched this video. Thank you for being here. I am absolutely grateful to be sharing with you this subject, and we will continue next video with the rituals as spiritual practices. So wherever you are, I am sending you a lot of light and a lot of love, and we'll see each other on next video. Bye.